Hey there, it's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, iHeartRadio, all the platforms around the world, over 100, obviously. And gotta say, IG 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee, because they have 5.5 million views around the world and counting on that, which makes me happy. So I gotta talk about this film because I wanted to share this with. I've got 12 co-hosts; they're all women, and it's just myself and one other guy out of Tennessee. And I find this fascinating because I know people like this on both aspects of things. At one point, Sean, I'm thinking this guy is an idiot, and at the same point, the female character starts to get into how a lot of my female friends are. So I know both of these characters very well. Now, imagine me being friends with both of these people and being in the middle of those situations and how you shot that. Take it from there. Is that interesting or what?
Yeah, it really is. That was sort of my intention going through it, was to kind of create a sort of place where you're not sure whose side to be on, and you kind of, or maybe hopefully switching sides, because it's based on a real experience I had, which basically was just a stalker. And the first draft was written like that, and looking at it, I'm like, this isn't interesting. I have to find a way to kind of keep it more balanced so that the sort of the sympathies kind of shift as you go through it.
Well, and I thought that was the case because I know a lot of people like that. I've been in that world, obviously, on the lifestyle world, on the couples world, and then bringing those worlds together, which is quite interesting. So when it goes to, Austin, when it goes to your character, I'm like, I know those guys like that because I've been around some of the most beautiful women in the world, and they did exactly what the female character was like, going to that male character. Why? What's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you. We just need a break. And then here's the whole thing. This is why I don't go on dates, because you're a movie. I hate that word dating. I don't want to hear let's be friends because it just never really works, does it? Ashton, does it?
No. I mean, people say this all the time, and it's, you can argue if you want, but I think it's very difficult for males and females to be true friends. It's possible, it happens, but there can't be any attraction. Even if one person has the inkling of an attraction, the friendship won't work, and it has to be completely null and void of any sort of sexual attraction. And sometimes, even when two people are great friends, one of them is lying.
That is so true. It was funny. Talk about your character, because your character is interesting. I'm not, and as I'm looking at this, because again, I know these two people. I still have these friends just like that, and I'm like the mediator, and I'm like the judge. I'm like, okay, so you said you weren't going to do this. First of all, take out the word dating, take out the word friends. Just let it go and see what happens. And you guys almost say that at a point. And I think, Sean, when it comes to the writing of this, you actually wrote it really precisely because, again, based on real life experiences, and I think we all know someone who's kind of gone through this, right?
Yeah, it was definitely, I think one of the reasons why the idea of, really, a friend of mine suggested this to me and said, there might be an interesting way to tell a story here all through emails and texts. And that's why it sparked for me when he said that, because I'm like, I know so many people that are doing online dating, and I did a good bit of it myself. And so I thought like it could be a way to kind of, in the midst of a story and a little bit of a weird story, capture, modern dating culture. And so that was something that was in my head, even before I started writing.
Well, congratulations on this. This I know this wasn't easy to do that, just to write that, but it does work. You guys could have been in an elevator and been friends and gone through the situation where the elevator breaks down, and it would still been interesting, even as that play. And then, awesome, my hat goes off to you because I'm looking at, you could have had this look that you had, parlayed it to that look, and it would have been even better at that point. Who would have known? But as you guys are shooting this during lockdown, I guess, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, actually, to speak about that, one of my favorite stories about this whole movie is how it came into fruition. And Sean was going to go make another movie. COVID happened, and that fell apart. And he's looking at all of his stuff, going, "What can I do during this time?" And as we all were, because we were all handcuffed at home. And he had this play that he had written, and he called and said, hey, I've turned this into a script, and I think we can shoot this in 5 days with 2 actors. And we can follow all the COVID protocols and do everything correctly and still make it. And, you know, we went and had coffee, and, you know, he pitched me the concept, and I read the script, and I was like, this sounds so fun and so cool. Let's dive into it. So yeah, it was very cool to be able to work early on in the pandemic when everything was shut down. And it was like nothing I've ever done before. I think Anna would say the same thing. You know, we were standing on a piece of tape for the entire movie, and we don't move. She was, you know, standing next to the camera 30 feet away. I was doing the same for her. Much more like a play. It was hard sometimes not to be able to move. And I would tell Sean, I'd be like, really? Like, what do I do with my hands? Like, so it was very challenging. And we shot something like 15 pages a day, which is, you know, unheard of for a movie. No one does that. And really cool challenge. And I think we came out with something really cool and interesting.
No, it's very good, actually. You know, I want to share it with my other co-hosts, because the women, you know, they're complaining about dating, or I keep saying, you're just graduating, you have to be more public figures, you are influencers. So there's people you used to go and hang out with. You really can't do that anymore. You are public figures now, so you have to be careful with what you're doing. And even at one point, your character goes, I'm going to Vegas to go, you know, play cards. Oh, can I come with you? Well, no. Whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas at that point. I'm like, no, you can't go, women, no.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to play cards. This is my guy time, my card time. Also, you know, that was interesting because Ian wasn't really honest about what he did there until, you know, it comes out much later. That's one thing I also found fascinating about this movie and these characters was their flaws are in full view, and, you know, no one else is listening. It's just them. So they tell each other everything. Maybe not right at first, but they eventually tell each other everything, and everything comes out, and it gets really, really real.
Well, Sean, you'll like this part. That part where he says, I'm going to Vegas, and then Anna goes, I want to go to Vegas. I've actually had a friend say this, and I had to explain to her why she couldn't go to Vegas, because the guy was in Vegas. So there were many, many different parts that were all true. So, Sean, going back to you, you did a great job. So how would you, because I found myself, and I think a lot of us have done that. Let's just take a break. You don't even want to use the word break, date, or friends. Those 3 things get you in trouble, right, Austin? And then at the same time, like, what's a polite way to say, let's like step back? There is no, I don't think there is. Is there, Sean?
There's not. You know, this was based on an experience I had with a woman maybe 10 or so years ago. And I just it was remarkable how resilient she was. And just at the end of the day, she had very strong feelings for me. And there was nothing I could have said that would have stopped that. And I tried everything, you know, so I had all sorts of conversations like this. But at the end of the day, she was fixated on me. And there was no winning. And it took a while to figure that out. And, you know, eventually, thank God, it faded away. So I tried to bring that sort of thing into the characters and put myself in the place where I was, just because, you know, Austin's character didn't have the knowledge, you know, while he's going through it. So he's trying like all these different sorts of things. And sometimes too, he's sending mixed messages, which I did too. You know, sometimes he's saying like, you know, are you sure you want to keep me in the friend zone and stuff like that? So that, you know, it's giving her a glimmer of hope. I don't think he realizes in that moment how vulnerable she is, and, you know, what he's doing is probably, you know, he's kind of dealing with somebody with a bit of a broken wing. But that's what makes it so complicated, is that, you know, Annie, you know, if he gives her a tiny little morsel, you know, for her, it's just like, it's so fulfilling. It means so much. And so I think, you know, as time goes on, especially, I think that the male character starts to become a little more culpable for the situation, whereas, you know, the right thing to do would have been to kind of exit it, and he had opportunities to, as she tells him, and he doesn't, and so that kind of like, it creates something of a snowball.
But also, like you said, it's not easy to exit. I mean, I knew 2 people that didn't know how to exit, and when they would have both called me, and I wouldn't let each one of them know that I was talking to the other, because oh no. And I learned from the entertainment industry, and I'll mention Demi Moore, being friends with both parties, both A-level talent. Hollywood was with the most successful one. I said, I'm never going to do that. To this day, I've always been friends with both of them. And you always tell them that you're friends because you don't want to get into that war. But at the same time, you have to tell them, and you have it in the movie, why they shouldn't be pursuing this war. Step back, think about what this person is going through. Because now, and it kind of goes into it, you didn't really tap into it, but it was there, was the mental part of stuff has always been there for people. Now it's been heightened since the pandemic. Now people have more mental issues. So she had a little bit of this because she's kind of that stalker, and the character goes, "Are you stalking me now?" Because she knew where you lived. How do you get out of that? Because the only other thing you could do is kind of move, right?
Yeah. I think he could have changed his phone numbers maybe or something like that, which he didn't do. And at the same time, nobody forced him to, have sex with her or, to meet up with her. And, and he
Now,
agreed. To
I've been in
going.
that situation at that point where I said, I better not sleep with this girl because.
Well, you were smart.
Well, you're smart, but the guy part of you says for 10 minutes, like, I should have. But in reality, you're like saying, thank goodness I didn't.
Yeah.
Because this is how your movie came about. So I've been in those situations like that. I'm like, thank goodness I didn't because it could have gone that way.
Yeah. You played it right.
I got some great advice from my brother-in-law a long time ago that he learned in a relationship early on in his life. And the woman said to him, "Break my heart once. Don't break it over and over and over again." And I've always remembered that. And I think it sounds simple, but it's so powerful and real. And like, I think that's where, when our movie comes to the end, and I can't remember the exact line, but it's something about being more careful with each other. And I think that's so important. And when we're young and just having fun, we don't really care or think about those things. And then it's after many relationships and heartbreaks that we learn these things. But I think that's one thing that everybody can take away from it, is we could all be a little more careful and loving and kind with each other.
Well,
Yeah.
so my non-dating word is called, let's just hang out. What I do is I bring that significant other I might be interested into my world so I can see what she's like. And then since I'm around celebrities all the time, I'm like, can't you handle my world? Can't you handle my co-host with this? If she can't handle with my team that I put together, that we've been together for years, it's not going to work because you can't bring a girl in as a relationship. Oh, I don't like this girl. You should get rid of her. I'm like, no, she was there before you. You know what I mean? That becomes challenging. So again, this is why I like this film. Not only was it entertaining, it's educational, it's engaging, and it's one of those things where you get engrossed with it. So it gets the 4 E's in my category, which is the best execution. So I like that, Sean. Great job, Austin. Great job on our part, because that's not easy for what you guys had to do. It's definitely not.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Talk about the female character. How did you choose her? Because she does a great job.
I was not really familiar so much with her work. And we were, I had asked Austin to do it because he's a friend and we've worked together before. So we had Austin ready. And then it was just, I had a casting director who was sending me different links to look at and different people to see. And when I saw Anna, I didn't know where exactly I'd seen her. I hadn't seen The Help, which is what she's probably best known for, but I'd seen her in different things. And as soon as I saw her, I was like, oh, she'll be really good for this. And she just had the right sort of presence and she just felt right. And then we, Austin and myself and Anna, we did an audition. We rehearsed at my house. And as soon as she started reading it, I was like, oh, she's great. She's really, better than what I had in mind. And she's so committed and just is so willing to be vulnerable and to maybe even look a little silly, which is so important. And I think that's what made her so good in the piece.
Austin, what did you like about your character and what didn't you like about your character?
Great question. I liked that he was honest in the places that he was honest. And the thing that I struggled with was one thing in particular. when he said that I'm still in love with my ex. And now Sean may have written that, and that may have been the truth. But when I read it and when I came through my body and it, was gone through my filter, I felt like he might have been lying. Or even if he wasn't lying, he might have been using that as an exit strategy. And I always think of that still, after all this time after we've made the movie. And I thought about it the whole time. And it was I think it's great writing. I think mainly because I'm so obsessed with it and I can't stop thinking about it. But that was one thing that I really struggled with was, is this the truth? Is he really still in love with his ex? Or is he, trying to come up with a way to let her down easy?
See, my opinion with that was he still was, because you tend to be with your exes, whether you like them or not, whether it was a love and fate relationship. So I took it as that. So so in the beginning, what really got my attention was the first 90 seconds, because I see films from the beginning to the end. I don't do the 10-minute rule, and I've been used to picking film festivals, movies out, beginning to the end. And I've always hated it when people did that, but I understood why, because of so many submissions. So when I would see a movie like this, it's that opening that gets me. It is very, very important. It got my attention. I actually sat in my seat and I watched the whole thing, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. That's a sign of a good film. That's a sign of good writing. And those two characters, you got two people playing off each other. And I was thinking that they're not necessarily in the same room, because I don't read the notes. I don't want to know anything, because I'll figure it out. And if I've got to figure it out within the first 10 minutes, and I'm waiting at the end of 2 hours to say I was right, that's not a good movie in mind. So again, it goes back to the writing. So congratulations on that. And I looked at it like this. He was kind of telling the truth because he was still in love. That's how I saw it.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. I'd love to hear the, audience perspective. I love that. Thank you.
And again, being on the adult side of those things like that, where back in the day, the girls would send the photos out of stuff. The guy would send those pictures of things like that. I'm like, once you send it out, you can't get it back. And that just made me laugh, because please don't do this. And once you're begging, they're going to hold on to that. That's just normal reaction.
Yeah. Well, the one also, to speak to online dating and what, most people I think are signed up and doing now, this is something that's not going away. It's not going anywhere. And there are lots of pitfalls and lots of tricky things that happen with this. There's also a lot of great things that happen with it. These algorithms, and I think these, the computer side of it has done a really good job of trying to put the right people together. And there are success stories, and people are still together years and years later. So I think this is such a poignant and great movie to be watching for, what's going on out there in the dating world now. And I hope people can take the good parts and celebrate them, and then and then the really hard parts we can try to avoid.
Exactly. So we got about 2 minutes left. Sean, give your social media links, how people can see this movie when it comes out, because it's really important now. Independent film is hard to see and how to find it, which is my frustration, because you guys take a lot of work to put this together. It's not easy. It's gotten tougher. And I hate when I go to a movie theater and I walk in, I see an empty theater. That bothers the hell out of me. And I understand why people aren't going, but I hate to see that movie get there and there's nobody there to see that. Nothing makes me sad to see that, because it's a lot of work that you guys put into doing that.
I agree with you. I don't like seeing that either, especially when it's my movie. Social media links, it's everything Sean McGinly. Last name's McGinly, not Ley. And the film's playing this weekend, September 17th, at the DTLA Film Festival, which is in Los Angeles, downtown LA. It's playing next month at the San Diego Film Festival. And hopefully, we'll get it out there through some distributor or another. And it'll, when I'll keep you posted. If it gets a release, you'll be somebody I let know.
Yeah, please do. It's a good film. I liked it. And I would normally be there for downtown too, because I do like that film festival. I'm still in North Carolina. And then Austin, social media links, what you got coming up next?
Oh yeah, my socials are my name, Austin Nichols, and I actually just did my very first audio book. It's Nicholas Sparks's next book. It's called Dreamland, and it's been just this weird lifelong dream of mine to narrate a great novel. So I got to do this great book, and Nicholas Sparks delivers, as we all know. So I hope everybody will go and get the audiobook. I just directed my second episode of Walker, the reboot of Walker, Texas Ranger. It's on the CW. And that season 3 starts, I believe, in the beginning of October. And my episode is the second episode of season 3.
How'd you like doing what Sean does?
Oh, I love it. I love it. I'm not as good as Sean, but I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from Sean and the other directors I've worked with. And it's such an amazing, different part of the brain. And it's so fulfilling. It's a ton of work, but man, when you go home at night and you fall down tired, there's something really, really fulfilling about it that, and just so different from acting. So I love it to death, and I'm going to keep doing it as much as I can.
All right. Well, I appreciate this with you guys. It's an excellent movie, as I would say. And again, Sean, I got to give you this. What would you say to get the audience to come out to see this film? And Austin, follow up with that also.
I think like anybody that's ever done online dating or is curious about online dating, this is a chance to get inside two people's heads and really see on a raw level, like it's like you can peek inside to watch what two people say when they're all alone and they're at their most, vulnerable.
Yeah, I think that it can be incredibly cathartic, especially for people who have not just dated online, but dated in general, because I think we've all been through something, maybe not exactly the same, but something similar. And, you really get to feel, this one couple's one experience. So I think people really like that. And like I said before, I think we should, focus on, and as we move into, the next online dating or whatever we're doing, the next date, take all the good things and leave the negative, and maybe we can be better to each other.
All right. I want to thank you too. This is Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews More, and the movie is called Match. So please check it out. Always support and don't be afraid to get those tickets to go down to a film festival, whether it's your local film festival, because it's really, really important. People work their butts off to get these things done, and it's just not easy. So please support that. We will see you.
Support independent film.
Exactly.